if you look at life as a continuum from the lowest form of primate up to the highest form of human, this is what they believe. There was a continuum that went on between those two extremes. At the place where you have the highest form of primate, which they said was the gorilla, and the lowest form of human, which they said was the Aborigine and the African, Galton and Darwin believed that the gap between those two was almost non-existent, that there was a very small gap between the highest form of primate, the gorilla, and the lowest form of human, the African and the Aborigine. But that if you made that gap wider, that the human race got better. And the way you make that gap wider is to eliminate the people that are closest to the gorilla. And that's the fundamental basis of eugenics and Darwinism, or what we typically call evolution.
And what's so amazing, Mark, is that there are hugely recognizable names. You can't dismiss this and say this was some fringe concept. First of all, your documentation is fabulous. It's absolutely documented over and over and over again. But then the people who threw money and effort and energy behind this, like John D. Rockefeller. I mean, these were big names, people with big money who absolutely believed this to the point where they wanted to put money into the idea of an American eugenics society.
And they still do. That same, not necessarily the Rockefellers, although they're still involved, the corporation is, or the foundations are. But now you have people that are, if you read what they have written and what they have said in the past, people like Warren Buffett and Ted Turner and George Soros and Bill and Melinda Gates, and now T. Boone Pickens has joined this crowd. They are pouring, as you and I speak, billions, and I say billions with a B, into this project, into this ongoing eugenics effort. So when people watch this and they think, well, you're talking about the Rockefellers and the Fords and the Carnegies and all these people, and they're all long dead and gone, and these organizations aren't doing this anymore. That's nonsense. It is happening as you and I speak. And one of the most interesting things is, and the reason we did an update on Maafa recently when we ran out of them and had to reproduce them, is within a few weeks after we released Maafa21, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who is without a doubt the most rabidly pro-abortion person that's ever been on the U.S. Supreme Court. She's more pro-abortion than the people who originally issued the Roe versus Wade decision, and she doesn't even bother to deny that. This woman is hardcore pro-abortion. But right after we released Maafa21, she was being interviewed in the New York Times by a pro-abortion reporter for Salon magazine, and she does freelancing for the New York Times. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was asked about the future of the Supreme Court and the cases coming before it and so forth. And when they got around to abortion, Ruth Bader Ginsburg made a quote. Let me read this for you. Quote, "Frankly, I had thought at the time Roe was decided, there was concern about population growth, and particularly growth in populations that we don't want to have too many of," unquote. Janet, I'm telling you, when I heard that, I thought, that's the smoking gun. This woman has written more, knows more about legalization of abortion than anybody on the Supreme Court, and she is basically confirming everything that we said in Maafa21. She was saying this is about eugenics. And when she says we were concerned about population growth, and particularly growth in populations that we don't want to have too many of, I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure out who she's talking about.
And what's sad is she forgets her own history. As a Jewish American, should she not be more sensitive, perhaps, than some on the court to understand what eugenics can do, how it can wipe out a race of people?
Absolutely. And how the American eugenics movement that she is basically defending here was tied to the very people that you're talking about. We found I could do another whole documentary on just the links between the Nazis and the American eugenics movement. It is entirely conceivable, when you look at the information that's out there, that Adolf Hitler got virtually all of his ideas about eugenics from the American eugenics movement. As a matter of fact, he called Madison Grant's book on eugenics, who's an American, he called Madison Grant's book his Bible. And when you look at things like the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute, which is the organization in Germany that devised all the eugenics strategies that were carried out in the death camps,